This week on Missouri Life, we're getting our kicks on Route 66.
Welcome back to this exploration of Missouri life. I'm Meredith Haynes. We're in the midst of a voyage down Route 66 to experience the nostalgia and resurgence of classic Americana. On the last episode, we followed in the tire treads of America's vacation pioneers from St. Louis to Pulaski County, about halfway down Missouri's portion of the original Route 66. Thanks to our friends at FASTLANE Classic Cars, we followed Main Street USA top down in a candy apple red 1966 Ford Mustang convertible, a beautiful example of classic American engineering. Luckily, we still have roughly 150 miles left to enjoy the ride. Along the way, we were dazzled by unique architecture and landscapes, admired historic artwork, indulged in snacks of all flavors, and finally rested for the night in Lebanon at the Manor House Inn. Built in 1903, this Route 66 retreat opened as a motel in the early 30s and has been in operation ever since. A mansion of its era, the building still serves as a B&B for weary travelers. Route 66 is abundant with a variety of places to stay and has been since its glory days. One of the first here in Laclede County was built in 1927 by Charles and Lita Spears, Camp Joy. From a campground full of tents to quaint cabins, this charming camp community is cherished by locals and the family who still hold on to many memories this place created. Craig Fischel, one of the Spears' grandchildren, shared with us some of those stories.
Craig, your time spent in Lebanon was at a very special place called Camp Joy, and it was a staple on Route 66. How did it even come to be?
Well, my great-grandparents decided to have a motor court on Route 66 and drove from Nebraska in 1927 to Phoenix, Arizona. They got to Phoenix and there were already 4 camps there, so they decided to drive Route 66 east. And when they got into Laclede County, Lebanon, they stopped and they counted cars with out-of-state license plates. That was their market research. Determined that there were enough out-of-state cars, they set up a campsite, and it was called Camp Joy. And they had about 30 cabins they'd rent out. And before they modernized the cabins, they had an area out in the very center that was a concrete slab, and they had chairs and everything. And there was no TV, there was no air conditioning, so people would come out. And I remember sitting there, listening to my grandparents have conversations. It was a much more social environment that they'd come out of their cabins. Once they put air conditioning and TVs in, that ended it. And as time went by and I-44 went by and left Route 66 on the side, business started slowing down, so they started converting some of the units into monthly rentals. And so it went from tent camping to monthly rentals until the early 70s when my grandmother sold it.
What do you think Route 66 means? Part of your early years were still, a pretty flourishing Route 66. And then today, explain Route 66 then and now.
I think it's connecting us back together. It's something of our history that was kind of ignored for many years. Now it's pretty much an economic driver in a lot of areas. I mean, people from all over the world come to drive Route 66.
Where we're sitting today in the cabin behind us is actually, what, like maybe a mile?
About a mile up from where it was originally built. Well, it was the last cabin left on the property, and the people here in Lebanon, incredible group of folks, decided that they would honor Camp Joy. And in our family, Camp Joy is a love, and as we leave this place, it's a memory in our hearts. This is a memory that we love. but we had it. Now it's been put in history, and we're just blown away by the efforts and the amount of work it took to move this building 1 mile down the road.
How does it feel knowing that the city seems to love Camp Joy just as much as the family who is behind Camp Joy loves it?
Emotional, yeah.
Craig, thank you so much for sitting down and walking us backwards in time to those fond memories you have of Camp Joy.
It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Family-owned staples are an essential part of what makes Route 66 a wonderful piece of national and local history. Another family-owned local spot is Rinks Market, a delightful stop to indulge on fresh deli sandwiches or to pick up a Route 66 antique.
Rinks Market has served as an icon for many travelers heading down the Mother Road, serving up sandwiches, deli meats and cheeses, even fried pies. Established in 1950 by Glenn Rinck Wrinkle, this quaint shop continues to serve up the family tradition of friendly service with a smile for decades. Good thing it's lunchtime. I'm hungry.
After refueling with a delicious sandwich and a slice of pie, I was ready to hit the road once again. Lebanon is clearly an attractive and unmissable presence on the iconic roadway of Route 66, and its welcoming residents made our stay an absolute joy. But now we head farther south to Carthage, Missouri. The first thing to catch my eye in Carthage was the majestic and very castle-like courthouse of Jasper County. Located in the Carthage Square, it's one of Missouri's finest and is on the National Register of Historic Places. Just down Route 66 from this magnificent structure is the Route 66 Drive-In. It's an unmissable landmark residing along our path. Families travel from all over to experience the nostalgia of the classic American drive-in culture. We joined Nathan McDonald to celebrate the 70th anniversary of this dazzling theater.
Nathan, how excited are you for tonight?
We're very excited, very excited. We've been planning this for a long time and we're ready to go.
And how many years is tonight?
70 years. We're celebrating 70 years on this property as a drive-in theater.
So walk me back. The 66 Drive-In is an iconic part and an integral part of Carthage's history.
It's very ingrained in the area, not to mention the drive-in theater in society as a whole. It opened in September 1949, ran strong about the time of the nation was starting to have its love affair with vehicles and hitting the open road and getting out of the house. And it ran strong till the mid-1980s, whenever the decline happened for a lot of drive-in theaters. The walk-in theaters were taking a little bit wider stance. It closed down in 1985 and opened as a junkyard from 1985 to 1996, still themed around vehicles, oddly enough, as a junkyard. And then it opened back up in 97, and it's been running strong since 1997.
We're learning on our Route 66 travels that there's something about these pieces of history that they maybe get forgotten, but then people decide that they're going to grab a hold and bring it back. It's the same with Route 66. It's the same with this drive-in. Is that how you kind of are seeing the drive-in?
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, when you drive through the gates of the drive-in theater, especially this one, it's not so much about what's on the screen, it's about the experience. It's about the playground down front where kids play. It's the smell of popcorn popping. It's the carefree environment where you can put your phones down. You can leave everything at the gate. You come in here and you just enjoy the atmosphere. I tell people all the time, it's about the atmosphere. It's about true Americana, the way it used to be when we weren't so tech savvy. It's just detaching and being with one another as family and as friends and just enjoying a great film underneath the stars.
What are the trends and how do people watch nowadays?
Well, Southwest Missouri is going to be a truck. And a lot of people bring their trucks in, they back in. So I worked here for many years before I bought the property, and we would come here as a family and we would back our truck in. And in the back we'd have pillows, blankets, air mattresses, and we would just sit because it's a double feature, so it could be 4 hours of film with a 10 or 15 minute intermission. So you just like your setup, it's like you're camping and it's without a tent. You set up in the back of the truck, we lay back, we get popcorn crumbs everywhere, and we just enjoy what's on the screen. So this year I opened all the big Disney films with Avengers and Lion King and all those. But then a couple times a year I like to just take a step back. And this year I had a throwback weekend where I showed The Goonies and Sandlot, which is two classics. Tonight, celebrate 70 years, I'm showing The Wizard of Oz. We like to to take the step back. We do really well when we have a throwback weekend because it just really encompasses the whole atmosphere we're after. But at the same time, hot movies are hot movies, and we want to be able to compete, so we show the state-of-the-art ones as well.
I was, I think, around 13, and I went to a drive-in in Omaha, Nebraska, and even then, we had something that we turned on and like hooked on the side of the car.
Yes.
When we were watching. There's none of that right here.
Right.
Where did that go?
Right. That went away with technology, so we talked about it. Now it's all FM transmitted, so it comes through the radio. We still have a couple poles here and there that have the old speakers on them, and they're mainly just for pictures. But you know, I have enough trouble with people driving, hitting my poles. I can imagine how many wires I'd be rewiring from them driving off of them, still attached to their window. But it's just as technology goes with a digital projector, we need to stay with that, and so it's all FM transmitted.
How does Route 66 play in with the 66 drive-in?
It's such a big part. So the Route 66 alone is such a massive piece of just us as society. If you go back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s, you know, if we think about the movie Cars, which was such a big push, that's true. You know, when the highways, the interstate system come along, it kind of got forgotten. Well, now it's just taken a whole bigger step. And for us, being the nostalgic theater we are on Route 66, those two things combine together and just makes my business plan easy and makes me be able to run a good, clean environment to where you take that step back. But it's extremely important to the success of the business is that, oddly enough, that slab of pavement out there.
Well, I know you're getting ready to get the show started, so
yes.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. We're so excited for the
Great.
Wizard Vlog.
We're glad you're here.
After a night under the silver screen, we made our way to yet another location that has seen the rise and fall of Route 66. Local artist Lowell Davis experienced firsthand the decline of Main Street, USA in his hometown of Red Oak. Still clinging to his roots, Lowell recreated his abandoned town by relocating original structures and founding Red Oak 2, a place that is now a pleasant remembrance of the quaint, small-town beauty of the early Route 66 era.
There's a little town called Red Oak, and it's 23 miles from here on old 66. Well, it's a mile and a half off of 66. And both sides of my ancestors pioneered it, and it had a lot of meaning to me. But then the Second World War broke out, and they all moved off to defense plants in the military, and they never really came back after the war. And so it kind of slowly turned into a ghost town and kept falling apart and falling apart. So I just started picking it up and moving it here for no rhyme or reason. It certainly wasn't a business venture, you know, there's no money to be made on it, but just being able to do it and let people enjoy it and come by and enjoy it. I like to sit on my front porch and enjoy the kids and things playing and running around. I just sit on my front porch and smoke my pipe and drink my coffee and enjoy the day.
Your home is right behind us. Is there a favorite building or monument sitting here on the property?
There's several of them, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Okay, where I live is Belle Starr. She was a notorious woman outlaw. And went and researched it all, and sure enough, that's where she was born. And so we picked it up and moved it here. Down to the end of town is Dalton Gang House from Oklahoma. We bought it all the way from Oklahoma, so there's that one. Most of them have a lot of meaning to me, you know. That's my grandmother's house down in the end. That general store over there, I was raised in the back of it, and that's my grandfather's blacksmith shop, and so on. And so it just has a lot of memories to me.
We are sitting right outside of your art gallery. Mm-hmm. When did you become an artist?
When I dubbed my first box of Crayolas out, I thought, wow, this is it, you know. And so I've never been anything else. That's just an artist, that's all. I have no desire to be anything. My mind is crazy, you know. I don't watch TV or do anything like that. I don't need it. I can sit on my front porch and I just visualize everything. Make an art out of it, whether it's a sculpture or painting or mural or whatever. Just what's going on in my crazy mind.
And then the rest is history?
The rest is history.
Route 66 was in its heyday?
I used to live on Route 66 when I was a little kid. Come to Red Oak, you go out of Red Oak to 66, and there was a gas station there, and we lived in the back of that gas station. I like to travel 66, you know, when I'd like to go out west and see how all the mom and pop places promoted themselves, you know, so that played a big role in Red Oak, is watching how they grew and things. And then when the Second World War broke out, I guess y'all know why all these freeways started coming in, because Eisenhower saw Germany and they did with the Autobahn, and so that was a big push to make all our highways like Autobahns around here. I don't know, it just took away so much, you know, when that happened. All the mom and pop places started disappearing off the map, and you know, as I say, I used to go out west when I was young and seeing all the excitement and everything was going on out in the deserts and all that, and then that all came to an end. And
when did you feel that started to come back? When did you see that pick up?
I'm watching it now, you know, because I saw it at the bottom, you know, and so there's so many people now that's realizing what they're losing and trying to bring it back like I do, but in a different way. It might be their gas stations, it might be their motels or swimming pools or whatever, but you know, it's just now catching on. It's coming, you know, they're rolling up their sleeves and doing something about it.
I'd like to shake your hand.
Hey,
thank you so much.
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With Red Oak and Carthage in the rearview mirror, I enjoyed the last handful of Missouri Route 66 miles in the Mustang before arriving at our final location. As the last major city before the Missouri-Kansas border, Joplin is still a bustling metropolis with plenty of Mother Road nostalgia to share, some of which includes notorious visits from the infamous Bonnie and Clyde. During their rampage across the Midwest, this dastardly duo engaged in a shootout with local authorities during their stay at what is now a historic landmark. To this day, you can still find a bullet hole or two in the walls.
This is the Bonnie and Clyde hideout apartment in Joplin, Missouri. This is the last of the best kept places that Bonnie and Clyde either hid out or lived in of all the places of their life. It's really noted along the Route 66 as a place to must see in Joplin, and it's where they had a shootout here in 1933. They were vacationing here basically. They'd spent almost 2 weeks here. And they picked this house because of its high ground. They had 360-degree view around the house. They could hide the vehicles inside the garage, and they had a staircase that actually had garage access. So totally a good hideout place for gangsters, because they could do all they wanted to do without being seen by the police. And that's kind of what happened. This was a time when prohibition in America was being lifted. In Missouri, had lifted prohibition on beer, not on spirits. So with a gun went off and some constables were summoned to come check it out. They thought there's maybe some hoodlums drinking some hooch or something down here. And when they approached the house, it was about 4 or 5 different people, Joplin Police Department, as well as a Newton County Constable. Buck or Clyde or somebody saw what was going on, and a shootout ensued, and they took off heading for Arkansas. We did have 2 constables that were killed, one Newton County constable and one Joplin police officer were killed here on the site. And their families are still here, so every year in April, when it is the anniversary, we kind of remember them as well as what happened. One of the significant things for law enforcement is back in this time frame, the FBI didn't even carry guns. A lot of law enforcement guys carry their own hunting guns, maybe their pistols or their shotguns. And it really changed what law enforcement would do, how they approached the gangster era after the shootout here. They didn't know who Bonnie was at that time frame, because they knew who Buck was and Clyde, because they both had been in prison. JD had been in prison, and Blanche had visited Buck in prison, but they didn't know who Bonnie was. In the pursuit of them leaving here so quickly, Bonnie left her cameras behind. So a lot of those infamous pictures of her with her foot up on the bumper and she's got a gun at the constable and a cigar, our newspaper developed those. She left her cameras here, and those pictures came out of this house. And after that point, law enforcement knew who she was, knew who the entire gang was, and were able to track them down. And a year later, in Arcadia, Louisiana, it's when they were actually gunned down and the era of Bonnie and Clyde came to an end. It's our important part of history. We're very thankful the house is still here and we can have people. It is an Airbnb. So if people do want to come Route 66 to Joplin and stay the night and be a part of that, enjoy part of history.
We've seen beautiful displays of neon signage on our journey down Route 66. To round out our trip, it's only fitting we end on an establishment with one of the biggest and most brilliant signs. Wilder Steakhouse has been in operation since the dawn of Route 66 and has served travelers from all over the world. Marcia Paulus opened the doors for us to take a closer look.
Marcia, I have to say, you guys have wonderful steaks.
Thank you.
I have eaten in your restaurant. They're delicious.
I appreciate that.
This has been a staple for Joplin for how many decades?
Oh my goodness. Now you've got asked me a math question.
Are you at 100?
The building is past 100. It's
Right.
from 1908. Mr. Wilder started something here in 1929, but it wasn't a restaurant until about 1932.
You are not technically right directly on Route 66, but he was a very wise man in making sure people noticed him from Route 66.
Had to take advantage of Route 66, the mother road. You know, that was the only way to travel. There wasn't an I-44. So yeah, we're 5 blocks from Route 66, but he put a very large neon sign that had motion to it up on top of the building. So you can definitely see it from 5 blocks away, and to draw those travelers in.
What were some of the changes that you guys saw in that
Well,
time
we didn't see them, but I'm sure that they were probably detrimental to him, you know, because he had relied on that traffic coming through. But he also had time and years to establish local, and we see that today. We have a lot of people come from Tulsa, Springfield, Arkansas, Kansas City to eat here. When we first started 22 years ago, I didn't notice so many people talking about they were traveling Route 66. But within the last probably 6 years, it's really had a resurgence. That kind of goes back to our sign as well, because we were able to get a grant to redo our top sign because of Route 66.
Was the sign dark for a while?
The sign was dark. We had lights shining on it, and it was a $48,000 project. But that was just another resurgence of Route 66, and that was for anywhere from Chicago to San Diego.
You were also telling me that he had once turned this into like a men's club.
Yeah, Mr. Wilder was wild. He had a bordello upstairs. He had gambling upstairs, and this room that we're in was pretty much just for gentlemen. And then on the other side of this wall was a little diner and the restaurant for families, and anyone was welcome there. The front of the building was blown off at one time because up in the gambling part of the restaurant, and it's believed that it was the mafia from Kansas City came down, and Mr. Wilder wouldn't give him a cut of his action, and so they tried to kill him, and because the bomb went off right above his private office, which was upstairs. There again, that was during the height of Route 66 opening, and the gangsters were all up and down Route 66. So, who knows who did eat here, but Bonnie and Clyde never did.
Thank you so much for having us. This is the end of our Route 66 tour, and I think it was a great highlight to end on. So we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much.
Interstates may have damaged Route 66's momentum, but the Main Street of America is very much alive. The stories I've heard, the people I've met, the resurrection of this iconic road's communities continue to captivate visitors, not just from the U.S., but from all over the world. Route 66 has immortalized classic Americana for generations to come. I'm Meredith Haynes. On behalf of Missouri Life, thanks for joining us on this journey, and don't forget to spark your spirit of discovery and experience Missouri Life.
On our journey, we've relived a time from the past when a road trip was more exploration and less destination. The subtle difference between getting there and getting there. It might be more efficient to take the interstate, but it certainly isn't more desirable. A fair portion of the original Route 66 has changed over time, having been cannibalized by the interstate system. But what remains is more than enough to retrace the steps of America's vacation pioneers. The kicks are still there if you know where to look. To share with us your experiences along the Main Street of America, send us your anecdotes, photos, and suggestions to info@MissouriLife.com for possible inclusion in future editions of Missouri Life's Guide to Missouri's Route 66. From everyone at Missouri Life Magazine and myself, thanks for watching, and tune in next time to spark your spirit of discovery and experience Missouri Life.
Missouri Life Magazine explores and celebrates the people, places, history, and destinations that make our state unique. Subscriptions to Missouri Life Magazine are available at MissouriLife.com. For exclusive content, full episodes, and much, much more, subscribe to the Missouri Life channel on YouTube and enjoy the journey at your own pace.
Established in 1950 by Glenn Rinck Wrinkle. Sorry, I thought you dropped that. I heard that flag and I was like...
Then I married Rose, and then she made me clean up my act, and I can't do the cartoons anymore. And she made me quit smoking cigarettes. She made me quit going to bars. She made me quit chasing women. And now I'm down to a corncob pipe, and that's about all I got left.
She sounds like a good influence.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about?
My sex life.
I don't need to know that at all. I am good.